Hi there, we're
Hey.
Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to sow your morning glory seeds indoors and outdoors step by step today.
Yeah, but before we get to that, it's helpful to know a little bit more about morning glories. They're a hardy vine, they attract tons of pollinators.
Yeah, and you're also going to need to find the right site to grow them before you plant the seeds. And they like to be in full sun locations with at least 6 to 8 hours of exposure, but they will tolerate some partial shade. Before we show you how to plant your morning glory seeds, we want to let you know that morning glory plants are considered a climbing or spreading vine. Their flowers come in a lot of different colors, and they can also be mixed colors of blue, white, magenta, and many others. The morning glory seeds we'll be sowing today are called Scarlet O'Hara, and they're a trumpet-shaped, fragrant red flower that bloom throughout the whole summer. Now, this morning glory is a vigorous twining annual that is hardy in zones 1 through 10, is frost-sensitive, and has heart-shaped leaves. It'll grow up to 120 inches in length, is really easy to maintain, and it's deer-resistant, it's drought-resistant, it's a wonderful pollinator attractor too. This is an heirloom variety, and it was chosen as a gold medal AAS winner.
Okay, before we sow any seeds, let's talk about when to sow them so you can plan ahead. And you have two options. You can actually sow your morning glory seeds indoors or outdoors, depending on how early you want to get started. For indoor sowing, you're going to want to time it so that it's 4 to 6 weeks before your last spring frost. At that point, you can sow your seeds indoors, get them started, and then have time to harden them off before you plant them outside in your outdoor garden. If you want to just direct sow them right out in your garden in the spring, wait till after any danger of frost has passed and that the soil temperatures are at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Either way, whether you plan to sow them indoors or outdoors, they should germinate generally within 1 to 2 weeks. All right, let's get these morning glory seeds sown indoors. The very first step is to nick your seed. And what that means is very carefully use a knife or some sandpaper to scratch or scrape the outer coat of the seed. This helps water penetrate it because the next step after that is to soak your seeds overnight or for at least 24 hours. So once you've got your seeds nicked, just drop them right in a small bowl of water. The next step is to get your soil ready for planting, and this is pretty easy here as we're using seed cell trays, and they've already been pre-filled with seed starting soil that is pre-moistened. We're going to use this dibber tool here to make planting holes at 1/2 of an inch depth, which is the measurement for planting morning glory seeds. Now that our planting holes are ready, let's carefully grab a morning glory seed out of the water and drop one seed into each planting hole. Next, carefully cover each planting hole with a little bit of soil. Finally, gently moisten the top of your soil to start the germination process. And that's how you sow morning glory seeds indoors.
Your seeds should germinate in 1 to 2 weeks, and once you start seeing that seedling growth, you need to make sure that you give them as much light as possible. So try to get them into full sunlight for at least 6 hours a day, if not longer. Try to grow them at 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, so you give them that optimal temperature for their best growth. Once your seedlings reach about 4 to 6 inches tall and they have 2 sets of full leaves, you can start thinking about bringing them out into your garden to transplant. But make sure to realize that morning glory are sensitive to transplanting because they have sensitive roots and they break easily. So when you're handling them, be very, very careful. Before you transplant your seedlings out into your garden, they'll need to be hardened off. And this is a process of gradually bringing them out into your garden in a full sun location for an hour, 2 hours, and so on, increasing that time that they're out in your garden so they get acclimatized and used to your garden's environment. So at the end of this 2-week period, you'll be able to leave them outside even overnight, so then they'll be really ready to be transplanted out into your garden. Once your seedlings are ready to be transplanted and they've been hardened off, bring them out to a location where you're going to transplant them to, like this container. Now they need to be spaced 8 to 12 inches apart. So first off, we're going to go from our starting point on the edge of this container and go out to about, there's 12 inches. We can go a little bit further and we'll go probably about 14 inches. Now, make sure to realize that these morning glories, like we said before, they're transplant sensitive, meaning if you bother their roots too much, it'll impact their growth negatively later on. So try not to do anything with their roots when you're transplanting them. Don't break up the roots. Just leave them as best you can as they are. We're going to match this soil level with the soil level in this container. So what we're going to do is just set this down into this hole as best we can and match those soil levels up. And the very last thing to do is to water your seedlings into their new location.
All right, let's sow these morning glory seeds outdoors in this container. The very first step is to nick the seed coat. Using a knife or some sandpaper, very carefully scrape the outer coat of the seed, and then immediately drop it in some water. Now, morning glory seeds need to be soaked for 24 hours or overnight in order to help them germinate best. The next step is to get your soil ready for planting, and we're using a potting soil that has been pre-moistened in this container. Now, morning glory seeds need to be planted at a depth of a ½ an inch deep. We're going to use our dibber tool here called the Dibby XL to make ½ inch planting holes. Now, the spacing between each planting hole should be 8 to 12 inches apart. Once the planting holes are ready, let's carefully remove each seed from the water and drop one seed into each planting hole. Next, carefully cover each planting hole with soil. Finally, gently moisten the top of the soil to start the germination process. And that's how you sow morning glory seeds outdoors.
In the weeks and months ahead, you'll need to consistently water in your seedlings to help get them established. You can start watering them every week or when they look dry. Now, after they've gotten established and they really start to grow, you just need to water them as needed. So check the first 1 to 3 inches of soil to see if it's dry, and if it is, go ahead and water it. If it's not, leave it alone. Even though morning glory are drought tolerant, you'll want to consistently water them during the drier times of year so you get more consistent growth and flowering. And make sure to deadhead and remove old flowers so you prolong the flowering through the summer months. Make sure to keep up the weeding around your plants so they aren't competing with the weeds for nutrients and water. Mulching is also a great idea because it helps keep moisture in the soil readily available for your plants, and it helps suppress weeds. Also, make sure to look for pests and diseases while your plants are growing throughout the summer. If you need more flower planting, growing, or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you in planting your own morning glory seeds. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thank you for watching.